Hey, everybody. Hope and pray that you're doing well. Today, as we come to our word from the word, and today that word is disquiet. Disquiet. Now, we usually enjoy the peace and quiet. And then when something upsets that and there's a lot of chaos and turmoil, we don't really enjoy that. Well, if you'll notice as we get to Jeremiah chapter 50 and even leads on into the next chapter, I think it's some 110 verses about an oracle against Babylon. That ought to tell us that's more than really all the rest of the oracles against the nations combined. And so that ought to tell us how important Babylon was at that time, what kind of influence they had, but also the kind of destruction that they were going to face because of all that they had done. Yes, they were used by God. Remember, they were the sword of God. They were the weapon in the hand of God. But now it comes time for them to face judgment, to face the punishment for their sins and their actions that they so willingly also chose to do. But today, as we look, I want you to hear a word of promise, a word of encouragement for the people of God, and also that word of disquieting for Babylon. So, Jeremiah chapter 50, looking at verses 33 and 34 today, thus says the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel were oppressed along with the children of Judah. All who took them captive have held them fast. They have refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He will thoroughly plead their case, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. It's something to think of the influence that Babylon had on everyone in that whole area of the world, that God was going to so wipe them off the face of the planet like Sodom and Gomorrah. He said that the whole land was going to rest. Not just the physical land, but all the people around would rest because of the destruction that he was going to pour out on Babylon, on the Chaldeans. Now, we can look at that and we think, okay, well, the people of God, what hope did they have? Right? Well, as you go through and you find out that there's always that remnant, that promise of restoration for the remnant. I love the part that he says they have a redeemer, and their redeemer is strong. He's powerful. He's mighty. He is going to plead their case. And don't you know that that's the same thing that Christ is doing in heaven today for his church? He is the intercessor, interceding on our behalf. And see, there's coming a time when there's going to be a disquiet, there's going to be a turmoil on this earth, but the people of God will have peace. And that's something that we need to remember even here as we're on earth, that we're in this world, but not of this world, that we can still experience the peace of God even in the midst of chaos. And that's honestly what a lost world cannot understand. And if we as believers would show them the way that we can have peace, then they would take notice. Oh, sure, some are never going to pay attention. Some are never going to say anything. Quite a few are going to notice and pay attention, even though they may not say anything. And yet there are still those who would look to you and to me and say, how can you have such peace in the midst of these circumstances? And the way that we can do that, we were talking about this past Wednesday night. We were talking about Romans 8:28. How that we as believers can know that all things work together for good. We don't have to think that all things are working together for good, and we don't have to wonder or even discuss whether or not things are working together for good. We can know that they are. And even in the midst of all the things that have gone on through the course of Jeremiah that we've covered, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of those things were working together according to God's plan, according to his purposes. So even when we look around and we'd say, man, even when God was pouring out destruction on Babylon, imagine the turmoil that was experienced on earth and in that area of the world at that time, and how even believers, even those who did trust God, would have had such a hard time understanding what the purpose behind it was. What good could possibly come out of it? Well, what we need to remember is that if it's God's plan, it's going to be and is always good. That's what can give us peace, to know that his plan is perfect. Even when everyone else is in turmoil, even when he has given us rest but turmoil for others, we can have that peace of God that passes all understanding. So, my question, I guess, for you today would be, are you quietly at peace with the Lord? Are you living in a world of turmoil, a world that is anything but quiet? It is disquiet. Now, which one of those two do you believe that God desires for you today? God bless you. And I pray you have a great, great day.